Most people agree clean rivers and streams are vital to our health. The divide comes when we start talking about who should make sure those waterways are kept clean, who should regulate them, or should they be regulated at all. As Gretchen Frazee reports, the Environmental Protection Agency plans to implement a new set of rules this month that has farmers up in arms.
This is the Yellow River. This was not considered to be a navigable waterway.
This small river in northern Indiana seems peaceful, but it's becoming a big headache for farmer Charlie Huyen.
All of our ditches pour into this river at some point in time. There's a tributary right there. According to the new rule, that's a ditch that is considered now part of the waters of the U.S.
Starting August 28th, that designation means Huyen will have to get a permit for this tributary and likely more than a dozen other ditches on his property that connect to the Yellow River. It's part of the EPA's plan to clarify which waters it regulates. The EPA has regulated navigable waterways since the Clean Water Act went into effect in 1972. The new rules clarify the agency can also regulate tributaries and defines those tributaries as any waterway that has a bed, bank, and high water mark, a mark on the bank where erosion is visible. EPA officials say the new rules will protect not only the public's health, but businesses too.
From manufacturing and energy production to agriculture, to food service, to tourism and recreation, major sectors of our economy all depend on clean water to function and to flourish.
But farmers say the EPA's rules are too broad.
The lack of clarity is really concerning to us. The definitions are written so broadly that we have no indication for what will require permit and what will not.
The Farm Bureau is hoping Congress will pass a new law limiting the EPA's authority and stopping the water regulations from going into effect. But it's more likely that will be decided in court. Indiana and 11 other states have filed a lawsuit seeking to stop the EPA. The Indiana Attorney General argues the agency has, quote, greatly overstepped its bounds by intruding into an area of state environmental jurisdiction with a rule that is impractical, potentially harmful to Indiana's agricultural economy, and costly to taxpayers.
I'm really confused by that argument. I mean, the Supreme Court decisions themselves that threw the Clean Water Act into this, question about where the jurisdiction began and ended, called on the EPA to do this sort of rulemaking to clarify what their jurisdiction is. The question is, how do you determine what those waterways are? And so what EPA did by enacting this rule is look at the science behind that.
EPA officials say they're allowing exemptions for farming. The key is that while that's true for many farming practices, such as plowing, it might not apply to fertilizer runoff.
Agriculture runoff with excess nutrients and our blue-green algae problem, excess phosphorus, as well as pesticides and chemicals from farm fields are the #1 polluter of our waterways right now.
Charlie Huyen says he and other farmers take extra precautions to keep that from happening. That includes precision farming, where a GPS in his tractors allows him to apply the exact amount of fertilizer needed on each inch of land. No more, no less.
When I see just a dust storm coming over our fields in the springtime, going like, oh my goodness, there goes my fertilizer. I really don't want that to move. Farming has evolved into practices to prevent erosion, wind or water. I like to keep my money in my own fields, so I would like it to stay here.
Huyen says if he has to apply for EPA permits later this month, he will. But he wants EPA officials to know he's invested in the land and, in turn, the environment.
My kids drink the same water that we put on the fields. That's something that gets very personal to me, where I want clean drinking water too, just like the next person. Especially when you're talking about a multi-generation farm, it means a lot. So you want to see the next generation come in and work the ground and preserve the ground like you preserved it.
The question is, will that land be preserved voluntarily or through federal regulations? For Indiana News Desk, I'm Gretchen Frazee.